because I noticed that you had some of these questions in homework 1, which is a digital assignment. It's linked on Canvas. It's open now. It's due Friday, but you have until the following Tuesday, which I don't know the date. I think that's the 16th.
So, yes.
16th to get it turned in for full credit. So 21 pi over 5 is a pretty big angle, okay? So what we want to do is get that angle down between 0 and 2 pi. So what we're doing is subtracting 2 pi until we get an angle between 0 and 2 pi. So if I have 21 pi over 5, and I want to subtract 2 pi, remember we need a common denominator. How would I rewrite 2 pi with a denominator of 5?
10 pi over, wait.
Yeah, 10 pi over what? 5. Do you all agree that 10 divided by 5 is 2? All right, so 10 pi over 5 is the same thing as 2 pi. So what is 21 minus 10? 11. Now, keep in mind that these two angles right now, these are coterminal angles, but it's still this is still more than 360. So we're going to subtract it again. So let's subtract the 2 pi again. And we get 1 pi over 5. All three of these angles are coterminal, meaning that the terminal side is in the exact same position. Yes?
How did you know that 11 pi over 5 is bigger than 360?
Because I know that 2 pi is 10 pi over 5. So anytime the numerator is more than 10, that's more than 2 pi. Okay, so where is 1 pi over 5 going to fall in the unit circle? What quadrant, I meant to say. What quadrant is 1 pi over 5 going to fall in? Is that in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4? Show me with your fingers. Which quadrant do you think 1 pi over 5 is? Okay, so we know we have a 0, and we have pi over 2, and we have pi. No, that's why I didn't say it. I didn't want to say it. I was just going to keep talking. Okay, so is 1/5 more than 1/2, or is 1/5 less than 1/2? It's less than 1/2, and that is why we are in quadrant 1. So this angle is in quadrant 1. And do we rotate clockwise or counterclockwise to get there? Counterclockwise. So if, for example, if you had an angle that said 20 pi over 6, well, I know that 2 pi would be 12 pi over 6. So as long as that 20 is more than 12, I need to subtract. Okay, so let's look at our one that's in degrees. So we definitely know that negative 810 is greater than negative 3, or it's actually less than because it's negative, but it doesn't fall between 0 and negative 360. So we're going to add (360 degrees), and I can tell that I need to add it twice, so I'm actually just going to add 720. So essentially, I'm taking negative 810 plus 720, and that's going to give me negative 90 degrees.
So why did you add twice?
If I added it once, it would still be out of my range of 0 and 360. Okay, so negative 90 on the unit circle would fall right here. That's technically not in a quadrant. Would you agree that it's not in quadrant 4 and it's not in quadrant 3? It is actually directly on the axis. So when that happens, is not in a quadrant. So the quadrant is actually between 3 and 4. So it's not in a quadrant, it's in between two quadrants. And to get there, we have to rotate clockwise. Okay, so for the rest of the period, we're going to do two things. The first thing we're going to do is finish filling out the unit circle. Is there anybody that was absent yesterday? All right, so we're going to finish filling out the unit circle, and I'm going to pass out books. Yes, Kimmy?
Why didn't you do the, like, we only subtracted on the first question, why didn't we add? Because they're trying to.
Sorry, I was taking a sip. So because that first one was positive, so I had to subtract.
Oh, and if it was negative, you would have added.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's take out that unit circle. Let's finish filling it out. The goal is for you to get to a point where you can fill out the entire unit circle from memory. And I believe it's 2 minutes, but I will verify that with the other pre-calc teachers because I can't remember. So there are some patterns that will help you, though. Yes, that is your very first test. It is next Wednesday. So I want to explain to you.
Like this upcoming Wednesday, right?
Yes. Oh, actually, I take that back because I'm not here. It's Thursday. I will not be here Wednesday. You're glad I'm not going to be here?
No.
Okay.
We just don't have to do that.
So I think we should do it Tuesday instead. So we'll do it Tuesday. Yeah. We're going to do it Tuesday as a practice. And I just want to say, nobody is going to get it on Tuesday. Like, nobody. I don't even expect anybody to get it. I just want you all to kind of get used to it, okay? And then we won't do it on Wednesday because I'm not going to be here. And then Thursday we'll do it. And then Friday we'll do it. So I don't expect anybody to actually pass it till Thursday. Maybe somebody will surprise me. I've never had anybody pass it the very first time, okay?
How many copies of
I'm going to get there too. I promise. I got you. Okay. All of these questions that you have, I got you because I've been doing this for 10 years. So I already know. Everybody's always like, oh my God. But I have never had a student not pass it. Ever. Never.
Is it for a grade?
It is for a grade. Good question. So Sawyer is actually a test grade. It's your first test. It's a 20-point test. So this goes in the test category. But here's the thing about this test. You get to keep taking it until you get a perfect score. Okay? So I'm going to give you 3 chances to do it. And then unfortunately, after the third attempt, if you haven't passed it, I am going to put a 0 in. However, don't panic because you can keep taking it. Okay? I won't be able to dedicate time in class, which means you'll have to do your retakes during D-lunch or after school on Monday. But you can keep taking it until you pass it. Okay, and then you will get your 20. It's just worth 20 points. It's a 20-point test. I am going to give everybody 4 blank copies at the end of class that you can use to practice. And if you come at the end of the day or tomorrow, I'll probably have more copies. I just need to make some more. You can take as many as you want and just start practicing. But I'm going to show you some tips to help you memorize it. Now, I will also say that notice that on the unit circle where it says positive and negatives, I'm going to talk to the other teachers. I'm a parking lot that part because I don't know if they include that in that 2 minutes or not. They may not. Okay, so you guys ready? Let's fill out quadrant 2. Take out those unit circles. So we filled out quadrant 1. So this is what your unit circle should look like right now. So I just want you to know that when you go to quadrant 2, if you memorize quadrant 1, you really have the entire unit circle memorized because you're just doing a reflection, okay? So, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, but do you notice your numerators are 3, 2, 1, and then it goes down 3, 2, 1? Okay, we talked about that. Okay, so I want you to think of this y-axis as a mirror. Quadrant 2 is looking at the mirror, okay? Which means that all of these numbers, these 3 numbers, or all of these ordered pairs, are just going to reflect over. So let's reflect them over. So in this first one, I have my 1/2, my √3/2, And then I have my root 2 over 2, my root 2 over 2. And then I have my root 3 over 2 and my 1/2. And then what do you think this point, and even with this is even reflecting over. This 1 0 is going to reflect over. Put your 1 0. The only thing different about quadrant 2 is because I moved to quadrant 2, x is negative. Okay? So I want you to put a negative sign in front of all the x values. Just the x values. I'm going to make mine in red so they kind of stick out. They're negative. So in quadrant 2, cosine is negative. Remember, x is cosine. Okay, so now let's talk about the angles. Let's talk about degrees first. So starting with 90, you're going to add to 90 30, 45, and 60. These 30, 45, 60, it just keeps going over. So I want you to take 90 plus 30. What's 90 plus 30? 120. So this is an 120 degree angle. 90 plus 35. Sorry, 90 plus 45 is 135 degrees. And 90 plus 60 is 150. And I'm sure you already know what this is. 180, good. So now let's put them in radians. Now the radians, that's the tricky part. But I have some patterns that students have found over the years. So you'll probably find your own pattern. But I'm going to tell you how I do it also. Because I count by 6s and then I count by 4s. But I'll tell you that the way I do it, how I memorize it. We'll talk about that at the end of class. Okay, so in radians, this is 2 pi over 3. And then this is 3 pi over 4. And this is 5 pi over 6. And this is pi. And that is quadrant 2. What'd you say?
Why, like down there on the line, on the flat horizontal line.
You asked me why is that 180?
Yeah. Did you add 90 to 90?
Is this straight line?
Yeah, it's a straight line, 180 degrees.
Yeah, I get it.
And when we talk about these angles, again, just know this is my terminal side still. So what I'm saying is that this is a 150 degree angle. And this is a 180 degree angle. This is a 60 degree angle. So that's what I'm saying. Okay. All right. So now let's go to quadrant 3.
Did you say the pattern for the radians? Or were you going to go to that?
I'm going to go that at the very end after we fill out the whole unit circle. All right. So for quadrant 3, we're still doing a reflection. Except now we are reflecting across the x-axis. Okay, so I'm going to take all of these numbers that I put in quadrant 2, and I'm going to reflect it down. So this right here, everybody look at the board. I want you to take this and put that here. And then this number, this order pair, will go right here. And then this order pair will go right here. So let's fill those in. Now in quadrant 3 though, I want you to write both x and y are negative. So we reflected across the x-axis, but in quadrant 3, you have to put negatives in front of sine and cosine. So let's go back in. I'm going to put a negative in front of X and Y. In quadrant 3, X and Y are both negative. So I'm going to put my negatives in front. Negative, negative, negative. And I always put mine in a different color. Just so, you know, we remember that. And then you're going to add 30, 45, 60, and 90. Except this time we're adding it to 180. So 180 plus 30 is 210. 180 plus 45, 225. 180 plus 60, 240. And 180 plus 90, 270. So let's fill in the radians. So for the radians, this one is 7 pi over 6. And then this one is 4 pi over 3. I skipped one. Let me go back. And 5 pi over 4. And we know what is 270 in radians? Not 4 over 3. What is 270 in radians?
3 pi.
Thank you. I was getting nervous because that's one of our easy ones now. We got to know that one. We talked about this. It's during class time when I'm teaching. You just haven't been here, but we talked about it. Good morning. All right, we only got one more quadrant to go. So our last quadrant, quadrant 4, guess what we're going to do again? Reflect it. So I'm going to make a reflection. This time I'm reflecting it across the y-axis again. So look at the board. I'm going to take this answer, put it here. And then this one will go here. And then this one will go here.
Wait, is this like a graph?
It is a graph. I also talked about that on the first day of school. Yeah. Wow, it's interesting how these questions are things that, I don't know, I talked about. Wow.
Remind the class.
Wow, yeah. Wow. That's great. In this quadrant, y is negative. You got it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and fill this in here. So I have 1/2, and then this is my root 3 over 2. Root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. Root 3 over 2. 1/2, and this time I'm putting my negative only in front of y. So now to the 270, you're going to add 30, 45, and 60. So 270 plus 30, 300. So this is a 300 degree. And then this one would be 315. I also just remember, one thing I remember is that between these two angles, whenever I get to this first leg, everybody look at the screen. I know that to get from here to here, I'm just adding 15. So that's something I just remember. So I know that to get from this leg to this leg, I'm adding 15. And then to get from this leg to this leg, I'm adding 15. So that's also another way to think about it. So I know I'm going 300, I'm adding 15, and then I'm going to add 15 again, which is 330. And then when we get to the end of our lap, we get, this is 260. I mean, not 260, sorry, 360. So let's fill in our radians. So for radians, this would be 5 pi over 3, 7 pi over 4, 11 pi over 6, and 2 pi. And you have made it to the end. You should have a full unit circle. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you how I do my radians to help me. And you're probably going to find your own way. but this is what I do, okay? So I'm going to pull up a picture of the full unit circle. I need to go to my other notes though. Just trying to find a picture of the unit circle, so. And I don't have one in this one, so I'm gonna zoom in on this. I just want you to look at the unit circle. Okay. So looking at this unit circle, what I do, so this is just the unit circle, is I'm going to go around the unit circle. I'm going to ignore the angles that have a 4. All of my 45, 90s, I'm going to ignore them. And I'll explain what I mean. I'm just going to highlight these axes. Because this is the majority of the unit circle. So I just cut off, I'm just ignoring all of my 45, 90s. So I'm ignoring these here momentarily. Okay, so if I go around the unit circle and I ignore those 4, I'm counting by 1/6. Okay, but I'm reducing the fraction. So let's look here. I'm only talking about radians, not degrees. So I have 1/6. 2/6. 2/6 reduces to 1/3. 3/6. 4/6. So you see how this is a pattern? 5/6. 6/6. 7/6. 8/6. 9/6. 10/6. 11/6. 12/6. So I'm gonna go through it again. So this is 1/6. So you might want to write that you're counting by 1/6. But you're reducing your fractions as you go around. If it can be reduced, you have to reduce it. So this is 1/6. Then when I get to 60, that's 2/6. But 2/6 can reduce to 1/3. And then 90 is 3/6, but that reduces to 1/2. 120 is 4/6, but that reduces to 2/3. 5/6, that cannot reduce. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 7 divided by 6 is can't be reduced. 8 divided by 6 reduces to 4/3. 9/6 is 3/2. 10/6 is 5/3. 11/6 cannot be reduced, and then we get back to the end, and that's 2 pi. So that is what I do. Now I noticed that you're going to probably find your own. So like one of my students years ago, they noticed that it was like the pattern with the numbers, like this was 2/3, like you had to subtract 1, and then here you have to add the 1. Like I don't know, you all kind of find your own pattern with radians. Okay, now when I'm thinking about it, the 45/45s, the ones that I ignored, okay, so going here, what do you think I'm counting by this time? I'm not counting by 6. What do you think I'm counting by? 4. I heard somebody say 4. So only focusing on the 45s. Notice that I go 0, 1/4, 2/4, which is the same as 1/2, 3/4, 4/4, which is the same as 1, 5/4, 6/4, which is 3/2, 7/4, and then back to 8/4. Okay, so I want you to, I'm getting ready to do a couple things. I'm going to call you up to get your book, and I'm going to give you 4 blank copies of the unit circle. I just want you to take the next couple days and just start staring at it, finding your own patterns, set a 2-minute timer on your phone, and just start filling in as much as you can. Okay, try to do that at least 5 times. The back of that unit circle is blank, and then I'm going to give you 4 more sides. So you have 5 practice ones. Set a 2-minute timer and just see how, and then compare it. Because when I grade it, I grade it for accuracy. I'm looking for everything. It has to be, it's all or nothing. So it's not like, oh, I missed one thing. No, you miss one thing, that's a 0. It has to be 100% right for you to get your 20 out of 20 for the test. But you can take it as many times as you need to until the last day of school if you have to. Any questions? All right, so start looking at your